This should come out okay because it's the third time I've said this. I'm being repetitive, I know, but good morning and welcome to our second informational forum. Continued with this time period. It was successful last time, but we know the storm is involved. We checked. A lot of the power came back, not all of it. They say by Saturday, and also internet is coming around. But in case you can't get us live like today, it will be streamed on Facebook, okay? You can catch it there. Today, we're going to present the condensed learning model we e-blasted to you yesterday. I want to try a little different format, and the first thing I want to do is to have you hear less of me, because you heard that last time, you heard it at board meetings. I'm very familiar with the plan, but I think more importantly, you should hear from the real people, the musicians in the orchestra who are making things work, okay? We did choose the hybrid plan in yesterday's memo. We conveyed that to the board. As I also conveyed, Connecticut school districts faced just an almost impossible task to address every aspect of a respective plan. And it became more difficult because there are so many intricate parts and pieces. It's like a huge jigsaw puzzle, but you're missing 10 pieces. 10 of the most important pieces, whether it's learning, health, nutrition, safety with regard to buses, things like that. But we had to put up with and follow the governor and the commissioner of education's protocols, federal mandates certainly, revised learning approaches with the remote, hybrid, and one-on-one, schoolroom conversions in the facilities department, health and wellness requirements, transportation issues, food service procedures, technology accommodations, and the area of special ed. We don't, and I would share with you, we don't know exactly how much all this will cost because we're putting it together. We've just, and this is why the shortness of the meeting, we just solidified our plan last week with the governor, and this week we've been working on it to get it out in digest forms so that you'd be more familiar and has an easier tool to reference. Okay, so that's why it's short notice. Because next week, we're moving forward and trying to get it, the finishing touches on everything. Okay? We do know at the outset, Jeff is looking at me. Jeff?
Nope, everything's good.
Everything's good? Okay. We do know at the outset that our plan will not be the choice of everyone. But through the hard work, effort, and extensive knowledge of our team of subcommittees and their chairs, we have assembled a learning package that will meet the basic needs of our students and staff. I certainly ask for your support and your cooperation forward on this. And as I said to you before, you know, I know, particularly our committee heads, things change daily, okay? We get different guidelines, protocols, mandates from the government, the state, the commissioner. So it's a trying task, but again, plaudits, kudos to those that were participating. The change in format will begin right now. We are going to ask each chair or their designee to share some key points of their area. And then we answer some questions that we already have from the parent community. Okay, we've gotten them from you. So instead of going back and forth and wasting time, we'll present them. And it's 9:45 we started. Usually the governors and the commissioners are 10:45 an hour. We'll probably go to 11 o'clock, okay? And we'll give you information on how to proceed forward with regard to that. Okay, so first, what I'd like to have Dr. Budd, Jonathan Budd, and Christina will follow him, Christina Hefele. Although I praised our subcommittees, I do want to take 1 second to really special thanks to Jonathan and Christina, because they were the glue that held everything together. They integrated all the input, and they did a superb job in doing it under the constraints I pointed out to you and the time frame constraints. So thank you, Jonathan and Christina, for that. Okay, Jonathan's going to introduce everything by talking about cohorting in our hybrid learning plan that we selected. Jonathan?
Thanks, Ralph. My comments, everybody, sort of set the stage for the other leaders who will come on in a moment. You have seen, I think, in Ralph's document to the community earlier this week, our division of school children into cohorts for learning. That's essential for the hybrid phase. And I want to just clarify what those divisions are and give you a little rationale because we've been asked about that. Essentially, the purpose behind the hybrid phase is to reduce the capacity in each building and in classrooms by approximately 50%. So the best and most efficient way for us to achieve that at the secondary level, grades 6 to 12, is to divide by last name alphabetically. So roughly the 50% breaking point is after last name A through L. So students with last name A through L will be scheduled for cohort A, which is for in-person learning on Mondays and Tuesdays. Students with last name M through Z scheduled for cohort B. And I will say we've been asked a very good question by some parents, which is, can we divide the middle and high school based on grades 9 and 10, let's say, on Monday and Tuesday? We really can't do that at the middle and high school because so many of our classes only have students of a particular grade. So if we only had 9th and 10th graders in the building, we would have many classes with nearly nobody in them, and then many classes with almost 100% capacity. So we need to reduce across the board. Now at the K-5 level, our principals are determining cohort divisions so that each classroom is divided approximately 50%. We met earlier this morning, and on Friday, August 15th, every elementary school parent will receive an e-blast from their principal explaining what the cohort is at that particular school. Now, one important thing to know is that as a parent or guardian across the system K-12, you can request a different cohort. And I suspect we will grant all or nearly all of those requests. All you need to do is email Maria Vaz in my office, mvaz@trumbleps.org. Maria will record your request, get it to the appropriate administrator for approval, and also get it to Transportation and Food Services so that they have that record that they need. As far as cohorting at the grades K-5 level, it's also important to know that students will stay in their classroom for their education during the day. Our specials like art, music, and physical education will not be delivered in their typical locations. Students will learn those subjects in their classrooms. At the middle and high school, students will move from class to class, and the rationale there is because the equipment and supplies at the middle and high school really cannot be all put in the same classroom. It's specialized, it has to be spread out across the board. But it's important to know our principals have worked for the past 2 weeks with the facilities department on reconfiguring every classroom. So what's left in the room are the places where students will sit and work, and peripheral furniture has been moved out of the classroom or outside the boundaries of the classroom. And in that way, we can ensure nearly 6 feet of distance between every student in every classroom at about 50% capacity. And that brings us to the real richness of what's going to happen with our teaching and learning. And so I'm pleased to turn this over now to Christina Hefele, who's our Director of Digital Learning in Trumbull.
Thanks, Jonathan. Can you hear me? All right, I'm just going to cover a few things that are new to the version of the plan that you saw and kind of elaborate on some of it based on sort of questions that all of you have submitted either through the website, through the Q&A now, and hopefully it will address some of the key areas that you're looking for additional information. We will be using a consistent platform. Grades 3 through 12 did a really good job in the spring of posting all of their assignments on there, having students submit work. We did not have a consistent platform for the pre-K to grade 2 population, and we were relying on sending emails to parents and then having parents take pictures and send us back. I'm happy to say that in the launch of the in the fall, we will actually have a consistent platform for pre-K to grade 2. We're looking at Seesaw. We're looking at maybe using Google Classroom for grade 2. There's a couple of other ones out there, Class Dojo. So I actually have a committee who's looking at 3 different products right now, and we will choose a platform to actually assign work to students in pre-K to grade 2 so that we don't have to rely on sort of the email system. And we'll give some parents education on that. The students will be trained right when they come back to school, and we'll obviously be incorporating that with our professional development with teachers. So I do have some teachers who will be working with me later, in about a week or 2 to look at those different platforms. Our lessons are really going to be designed to maximize teacher and student to student interactions when appropriate. So some of the feedback we got is, will there be more opportunity for my child to collaborate with peers, both when they're in-person learning, although we have to maintain social distancing. We're looking at some of the collaboration features that exist in some of the technology we have to really give students the opportunity to collaborate, whether they're at home or at school. So you can expect to see more of that come this fall. We're also looking at our plans to combine direct teacher and student engagement paired with digital platforms. So again, we don't anticipate, particularly at the younger kids, that everything's going to be digital. It's going to be a mix of online and offline activities. We also have a number of you who asked about sort of social emotional learning. You should know that social emotional learning activities are part of what we build into the instructional day. So particularly at elementary school, it's part of our instructional minutes policy. So we will be continuing to do activities that align themselves to social emotional, and then also looking at the secondary level to make sure that that component isn't missing. We do have expectations that students will submit work that's assigned. Teachers will be reasonable with deadlines, but we're really going to focus on grading and assessing students, and most importantly, providing feedback on work that's assigned. So we want to make sure that we're doing that as we would whether they're in person or on their days that they're home. Just about done. So the last thing I just want to say is that regarding devices, we will expand our one-to-one program. It's in grades 3 through 8, so every student has a device. And at the high school, as you know, we're a BYOD. Kids are encouraged to bring their own device. It will be expected that high school students have a device in school every day. The governor actually launched a program where any high school student who doesn't have their own device will be issued one. So we'll be working with that when your kids come back to school the first week to make sure that every student who's not bringing their own device has access to one. And then pre-K to grade 2 will also have a request form where parents can request a device that can be kept at home for distance learning days. So more information to come. We're going to answer some questions in a little bit, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of some of the particulars. Thank you.
Okay, and we should say that you might have questions. You probably do have questions. You can put them in the chat. We do have some questions coming up later with answers that we have taken from your recent calls and emails to us, but we might also have an opportunity to add in answers to questions that you put in the chat. So feel free to type them, and we have a process to respond to those later this broadcast. I'm pleased to turn this over now to Lucy Bongo, who's our Town of Trumbull Health Director. She'll be speaking a little bit about health and wellness in our hybrid phase. You can tell her she's muted.
Lucy, you're muted.
Thanks, Bill. That's why we got you. Good morning, everyone. We've been working with the Health and Safety Subcommittee to meet and discuss the latest guidance from the Department of Public Health and the CDC. We will confer with the Board of Education as we get new information. The decisions on remote versus in-person learning are based on indicators of the spread and prevalence of COVID-19 in the community. The Department of Public Health recommends analysis of leading and secondary indicators be performed weekly and countywide to determine the appropriate model of learning for the school district. The leading indicator is the number of new cases per week. The secondary indicators include weekly positivity rates, hospitalization rates, and COVID-like and flu-like surveillance rates. The learning model may be modified by the superintendent based on the most up-to-date information from the State Department of Public Health. We are currently awaiting guidance for uniform and specific protocols that are related to positive cases within the school district. If there is a confirmed case, this information will be shared immediately between school officials, the nursing staff, and the health department. The information will then be shared with parents and staff accordingly. As new information becomes available, the superintendent will continue to make you aware. Thank you.
And thank you, Lucy. We appreciate all the work that you and Lynn have done. One correction I do want to make after Lucy got finished, on your revised condensed hybrid model learning on page 2, just please delete Lucy's name, okay? It inadvertently got put on. It was taken off the cover to the state. It should have been taken off there too, okay? At this time, I want to ask John Morello, supervisor in facilities. He and David Irwin have put together a very hectic last 3 weeks in schools, measuring, getting equipment ready, talking to principals. John?
Good morning, everyone. My name is John Morello from the Facilities Department. And as Mr. Isagna said, I've been working with David Irwin for a long period of time. And I'm sure everyone has read both the condensed version and the full version. And the only thing I could really add to that at this point is something regarding the bathrooms. In the boys' rooms, at this point, we are going to be isolating a number of the urinals in order to keep safe distancing, as well as the sinks in both the boys' and the girls' rooms. Once the children are back in, come in September, our main concern is going to be cleaning, obviously. And in order to do that, we are going to increase custodial staff during the day in order to address the classroom needs as well as the bathrooms. Especially with the children now eating in the classrooms, that's another layer of cleaning that has to be done before we can do the disinfecting. So just know that we will have additional maintenance and custodial staff on hand during the day, in addition to at night. The only thing I could really say is I'm not only a Board of Ed member, I'm a parent. So I can relate to a lot of people here. I have a son who graduated last year, and I have an incoming senior at the high school. And I can say with confidence that if myself and especially my wife was not comfortable with any of the plans set forward from any of the committees or the committee members, we would not be sending our daughter back. So at this point, we are 100% confident in everyone, and just want to assure you that everyone from the superintendent all the way down has the safety of your children in mind. And I'm not trying to sway anybody to make a decision either way, but just know that everyone here, including the maintenance staff and every committee member, has the best interest of your children in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's totally correct. We now are going to Dawn Perkins, who's our transportation supervisor, to talk about bus transportation and changes that will be made in the hybrid phase.
Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of updates since our initial plan that was submitted. Our transportation provider is actively recruiting and hiring an additional 50 bus monitors for our reopening. As previously indicated, these monitors will be very instrumental in monitoring students on the buses to assure their safety, during this time. They will make sure that all students wear masks while on the bus. They will be sure to maintain social distancing between the students on the bus, and they will also provide hand sanitizer for all the students. And they will closely monitor the counts and ridership on a daily basis and report back to us any concerns with that. All the bus routes will be posted on our website on Wednesday, August 19th. Please review them, noting the times, your child's stop, and make sure that the information is there for your child. The bus tracker will be available on the first day of school. So please use that app to monitor your child's pickup and drop-off times. Again, during those first few days, times, may be off a little bit, as the routes iron out. We sort of figure out and assess who is riding and who isn't riding. We do continue to encourage parents, if possible, again, at least during the early part of the hybrid phase, to drive your students if you can. So we are able to socially distance as much as possible on the buses. And of course, as always, transportation is there and available for anyone that needs it. If you have any questions regarding your transportation during the hybrid phase or any time at all, please just reach out to the department. You can email us, you can call us. Our staff is there, and we're available to answer any questions you have and address any concerns. And again, echoing John's words, the safety of your children on the buses is a top priority for us, and we will continue to monitor those buses very closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. We just had a question quickly come in about the traffic plan at schools and whether it will be adjusted for drop-offs and arrivals. The answer is yes. As necessary, each school principal will communicate specific details on that to their parents near the start of school. We're happy now to turn this over to Betty Cinco, our food services manager, for some information on food during the hybrid phase.
Good morning. I'll go over briefly what we will be serving and how we will be serving school breakfast and school lunch. The breakfasts will be served in the classroom, delivered by school staff. They consist of a cold breakfast, a muffin, a bagel, juice, fruit, milk. Our lunches will also be a cold option. There'll be chef salads, there'll be turkey sandwiches, ham sandwiches, and so forth. And we'll be delivering each one in a bag, so they're all separate and contained, and the school staff will be delivering those to the classroom. At Trumbull High School, we will be serving some students in the cafeteria with social distancing, and their menu may evolve a little more as we go along, but it will start out basically with a cold menu. There will be no a la carte options, just to keep the serving lines moving faster. The students will give their barcode number or name to the cashier, who will enter their barcode number. We will not use a pin pad. We will use also student rousters, just to keep track of all the meals for child nutrition program requirements. And I think there'll probably be more to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. And we're pleased to turn this over now to our interim PPS director, Dr. Kim Hapkin, who oversees all of our important students with special education needs.
Thanks, Jonathan, and good morning to everyone. When Ms. Beeman and I had worked with our team to develop the plan, we recognized that the school closure had been very difficult for parents with kids of special needs. So to that end, we do want to assure the parents that your child's plan in both a hybrid and a temporary remote learning plan will continue to be highly individualized, because we do think that's very important. Students will receive synchronous and asynchronous instruction through in-person learning, through the Google Classroom, recorded video lessons, telephone conferences, live video conferences, and virtual individual and small group instruction. The IEP accommodations may look a little bit different in the hybrid plan. So just as we are when we're in school full-time, the school teams will be working directly with parents when schools reopen. There have been many, many questions posed to us in emails and from the last Zoom meeting that we had. So to address those specific questions about special education and related services, at various grade levels and programs. Ms. Beeman and I have scheduled community Zoom meetings for next week. So I'll give you the schedule now, but it will also be posted on the TPS website. The K-5 special education group will be August 12th at 10 a.m. Parents of students in the SRP program will receive more information from Ms. Lee Westberg. The 6th through 12 special education group will be August 13th at 10 a.m. Parents of students in our REACH program and our alternate programs will receive information from Ms. Deb McGrath. And then our elite program will be Tuesday, August 11th at 10 a.m. The links to these meetings will be posted on the TPS website, and we do look forward to continuing these conversations with parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Right now, I'm just going to ask everybody, the presenters, and also we've reached almost 500 parents already. Last week, forum, we had 513. So fortunately, many parents are joining us. They have internet back, etc. I'm going to ask everybody to take a minute and a half about break. If you have to run and get a cup of coffee, if you have to run to the icebox to get some cereal for the kids, please do so now. And then stay and make sure you come back. A minute and a half. Okay, we're back. I just thought of this, and I apologize for interrupting. But the reason why I said it a minute and a half, because we're getting a lot of phone calls and emails saying, talk to us about the masks and the mask breaks. Many parents are concerned about the mask breaks. Everybody, for the past minute and a half, really took the first Trumbull Public Schools mask break. That's the time your students and the teachers will be taking off their masks in school for a minute and a half. That's about it. And now, of course, it's going to vary a couple seconds here and there, but I wanted to give you an idea of what the length of a mask break will be. Okay? Hope you don't mind interrupting. Jonathan, you all set with regard to the committees?
So we're integrating now, everyone, questions we've received in the past few days, and also some questions coming in the chat that are coming into our room here. I'm going to start with the first chat question because it's essential. What is the official first day of school? The official first day of school for all students in Trumbull this year is Tuesday, September 8th. But we are able to do a special orientation on Friday, September 4th for students in pre-K, kindergarten, grade 6 and grade 9, those students who are new to a school building. And more information will be forthcoming if you have a child at one of those grades from your school's principal. I'm going to take the first question we've had in the past few days. You will have seen in the plan something called temporary remote learning. And essentially, this is a new school enrollment status that the State Department is allowing parents to elect this year if they are uncomfortable under the current circumstances sending their children back for the hybrid phase. One example might be if a family member or a student is so ill that the parent does not want them back in the school environment even 2 days a week. If you need more information on temporary remote learning and what its parameters are, please contact my office. You can email me at jbudd@trumbullps.org or call me at 4336, and we can talk through the specifics as they might relate to your particular child and the guidelines the State Department has asked us to put around this. The next question is going to be for Christina Hefele, and this is a common, a really important question too in the past few days. How will distance learning, Christina, in the hybrid phase differ from what my child received in the spring?
Great. So I think there's a couple of things we can point out here. We have really been focusing on making sure that the format is more consistent. So a lot of the feedback we got is that it varied by teacher, it varied by grade, it varied by course, and we want to make sure that students have the same access to the same opportunities. So we're looking for a more consistent format of delivery of instruction from school to school, grade to grade, and course to course. We've gotten a lot of feedback in the hybrid model on distance learning days. What can students expect? So students can expect some live video instruction. It might be, we might be doing some of their specials at the elementary school on those days. There might be an opportunity for them to connect with their teacher during those days. There might also be some other staff, depending on if we have staff that are home and can't come into schools that might be providing support to kids. So we are looking in, pre-K to grade 12, providing some live video instruction on those days that our students are home. They'll also be doing some independent work, right? So as the students are older, particularly middle school, 5th grade and up, they're going to have some independent work that they also need on those days. In addition, we're going to have a mixture of small group and large group. So some teachers found it really effective when they were delivering some information to do a large group, but we're looking for more opportunities for small group instruction as well. And there are some technology advances we have where inside of a Google Meet, we can do breakout rooms and that kind of thing. So small groups of kids can meet with a teacher and meet together to sort of continue with the curriculum. And in addition, we're looking for more of a balance of between synchronous and asynchronous learning. So we did a lot of asynchronous learning opportunities in the spring, and now we're looking to kind of find a balance. So some things that need to happen real time, some that can sort of happen on the student's schedule, and really creating a balance of those two. And then I will finally say, we had talked about, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, about more opportunities for collaboration. So not only contact time with teachers or adults or staff members, but giving students the opportunity to collaborate and connect with each other, even on sort of those offline days. So we'll be doing extensive professional development with our teachers to kind of get them up to speed. Many of them have been working really hard on their own time over the summer, learning some of these digital tools and really trying to figure out how we can improve that instruction in the fall. But I do expect, our expectation is that this is going to look different than the spring, and we're really committed to sort of doing best practices of blended learning. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. And I should say, Ralph and I, when we're not on screen, are 6 feet apart from each other, but he's asked me to remind the community of what he said at the prior board meeting about the importance of this being a more rigorous distance learning experience, more challenging distance learning experience, more rich distance learning experience than in the spring when we were doing emergency distance learning. So all the things Christina described support that. And I think we often want to think about rigor, not just in quantity, but in quality. And it's going to be the quality of the experience that, responding to your feedback, is improved this fall. I'm pleased to go now with a question to Lynn Steinbrück, who's our Town of Trumbull Director of Nursing Services. Very common question, Lynn, that's coming in is this: will students' temperatures be checked before they get on the bus and before they enter school each day?
Thank you very much, Dr. Budd. Yes, good morning. At this time, mass temperature screenings will not be done prior to getting on the bus or entering school. This decision we based on the best available evidence at this time, which includes some of the following. The CDC does not currently recommend universal symptom screenings be conducted by schools. Additionally, an elevated temperature does not conclusively indicate a COVID-19 infection. Many people with COVID-19 do not present with a fever. Infrared thermometers can also give inaccurate readings based on ambient temperature, such as extreme heat or extreme cold. I will tell you that the best and most effective practice is going to be for parents or caregivers to monitor their children at home for signs and symptoms of infectious illness every day, including a temperature. For those of you that may not be aware, the cutoff for attending school is having a temperature less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I will put a symptom screener link in the information that we're providing parents for the back to school information. We can also put a link to the CDC website on the health services page, but you can find a symptom screener at the CDC website. Additionally, for more information on how to check your child's temperature, regardless of their age, I have put that information on the school's health services tab on the Trumbull Public Schools website. And you can also find that information at healthychildren.org. I would like to encourage parents right now to start to have a plan, come up with a plan for when your child is not well enough to attend school, as well as making a plan for when your child needs to be picked up from school in the event of not feeling well at school. We are asking parents to make their best effort to pick up a sick child from school within a 30-minute window. And I also would like to echo some of the things that were said by some of the other panelists, that the health and safety of the students in the town of Trumbull is and always will be a priority of the nursing department. We care for your children every day in a manner that we would like our own children cared for. And this has been and always will be part of our everyday practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. A common question we've had come in about the facilities department is one I'm going to give John Morello now. John, a lot of places in our document it talks about deep cleaning. What is deep cleaning and how will custodians do it in the schools?
Sure. I would just like to preface my answer. Regardless if we have 100% of the staff, students in, or if we have 50, the facilities department still has the same amount of real estate to clean. So that's why we are ramping up the staff during the day. And the only difference between, it's just more of an involved cleaning where we're going to concentrate more on points that we wouldn't normally have to clean, like underneath sinks, on top of doors, behind bookcases. So that's why we're going to ramp up the staff during the day as well as overtime in the evenings in order to address all these different areas. Because with the amount of staff that we have on a normal basis in a school, it's unattainable. So with the additional staff, we should definitely be able to address the deep cleaning on a daily basis, certainly in all the bathrooms, classrooms, and in the evenings, we'll take care of the common spaces like the hallways. And thank you.
Thanks, John. We have a couple of questions for Dawn Perkins in transportation. One that came in the past couple of days, Dawn, for parents who have issues, concerns, questions about bus transportation during the hybrid phase, whom should they contact? What should they do? Dawn, if you can hear me, you might be muted. There you go.
Goodbye, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Concerns and questions regarding the children's bus routes and bus stops can be handled the same way it's been done in the past. For our new families and new students to our district not familiar with the process, they can go to our transportation page on the district website. There you can fill out an action report and that gets sent directly to the staff in the transportation department. You will then receive an acknowledgement that we did receive your submission, and we will work on addressing the issues as quickly as possible. You can also call our department directly. We have staff to answer the phones. You know, please bear in mind those first few days, the lines do get a little busy, so sometimes online is the way to go. Any concerns of a safety nature will obviously be addressed right away. So if it is, if it is a safety issue, please call us, email us, fill in an action report, and we will be sure to see that and address it for you just as quickly as possible.
And Dawn, we've also had this question come in on the chat. So I'm going to ask you this: how will buses be sanitized in between routes?
Okay, so what we plan on doing is after a driver finishes their first tier, which is the high school and middle school runs, they will do a cleaning of the buses prior to then starting the next tier, which are the elementary runs. They will clean the seats, the tops, the sides, the bottom, all over the seats. They will also clean the high touch areas, the handrails and things like that. They'll clean all the windows. So that'll be done between all the runs. Then at the end of each day, once the buses are back at the bus yard, a deep cleaning will be done of all the buses prior to their going out the following day.
Thank you very much, John. Betty, we've had a couple questions come in on food services. One would be this question, Betty. How can parents get information on how to prepay for meals? How do they do that process?
Sure, we have a prepayment system called My School Bucks, and you can go on the Trumbull Public Schools website and there'll be information there on how to sign up for My School Bucks. It's very easy to do. My School Bucks will help you through the whole process, and you can have money put into your child's account, which is the best way really for your child to purchase meals.
Betty, we've had a couple of other questions come in over the chat, I'm told. One is, can students still bring their own lunch from home?
Yes, they can.
And the next one is, will lunch menus still be communicated as usual?
Lunch menus will be put on the Trumbull Public Schools website. And I'd also like to add that Monday through Friday, we will be having curbside pickup in front of the schools for students that are not in that school that day.
Thanks, Betty. Now turning this over to Kim Hapkin, who's also supported by Barbara Beeman, our coordinator of special education. One general way of asking this question, Kim and Barbara, would be that concerns may be out there about how student IEPs might be implemented. In the hybrid phase, how will hours on IEPs be implemented? And also, what would that look like for parents who select the temporary remote learning I spoke about before?
So thanks, Jonathan. Those are all really great questions. And I do want to acknowledge the concerns raised by parents regarding the IEPs, because this is a really complex issue. It's been a very challenging time for students with IEPs and parents who have stepped in to work with the kids at home. Our district, like all the districts across the state, have been anxiously awaiting guidance from the State Department of Education as to how students' IEP hours should be implemented. We still haven't received that yet. So we have been asking the question, directors have asked the question of the state, should we be amending IEPs to accommodate or modify hours of services? You know, certainly this is a critical question that we don't have an answer to yet. But we want to assure parents that as we reopen, the student school teams will continue to partner with them and to address each student on an individual basis, just as they would if we were in person all day in a full school session. And we're going to try and be as flexible as possible to create students' schedules and determine what works best for all of our students and with special education needs. And as soon as we receive the guidance from the State Department of Education, we will certainly push that forward. But we do have those community meetings scheduled so that parents could be, ask more specific questions next week, and that will be posted on the Trumbull Public School website.
Thanks, Kim and Barbara. We're going to go back now to Christina. And I should say Christina works hand in glove with Jeff Hackett, who's our technology manager, and he's actually supporting this Zoom today behind the scenes. Christina, we've had a number of questions come in about the type of devices kids need. What are the requirements? Will they be provided one by the district? Can you give kind of a general answer at each level about device use?
Yep. So let's start with the high school students. So students in grades 9 through 12, currently we have a bring your own device policy where students are allowed to bring their own laptop from home to use in school. We will continue to do the bring your own device model, but we are requiring that students have a device in school every day. So if they're not able to bring their device, it's a desktop, for example, at home, we will have the option for the high school students for all to get a device that they can bring to and from home every day. And your student will get information on that on their first day in school. Like I said, the state actually has a program to allow equal access to technology for all students. And part of that program was, we had asked the question because they said any student with an identified need. And we said, well, what's a need? If the family has 3 devices at home, but they have 4 children, is that a need? And the state said yes. So we actually put in a request for close to 1,000 devices so that we will be able to give those out to students. So high school students need to bring a device every day, either one that they choose. It must be at least 9.5-inch screen and must have a functioning keyboard. So your phone is not really considered your bring your own device. And we will make sure that any student who does not have their own device, if they're sharing it with a sibling at home, gets their own. Students in grades 3 through 8 will participate in our one-to-one program, which we have already launched grades 5 through 8, but we're going to roll that out grades 3 through 8. And those students will bring their devices to and from school, their district Chromebooks that are assigned, managed by the districts, and they'll bring it to and from school every day. Their expectation is that they'll charge it at home and bring it back fully charged. Students in pre-K to grade 2, we will have carts in the classroom, but due to COVID, we can actually not have shared devices. So each student will have a slot with just their device. So when they're in school, they will use that device. And then we'll also be providing devices at home for any pre-K to grade 2 student who needs some additional access to devices at home via a form. Some of you have already requested it. It is going to our IT department. The devices are on order. They should be in shortly, and then we will be contacting you on where, when, and how to pick up that device. Thanks, Jonathan.
I'm sorry, Christina, anything else? Okay, thanks, Christina. I'm going to talk about a few quick questions, and then we have 2 more complex questions Ralph will talk about. One is in relation to temporary remote learning, and the question I think that was asked is, when does someone need to decide? Per the state guidelines, you can exercise that option at any time. We ask for as much advance notice and conversation as possible because it does involve planning an instructional program to the extent we can that's customized for your child. And the earlier we have those numbers, the earlier we can match them with things we have to supply, like staff and other materials. The materials point leads me to answer a different question in relation to supplies and materials. So based on the health needs, the sharing of supplies across the schools will be exceptionally limited, and it would be truly where things must be shared. I'll give you an example. In a high school technology education class, students might have to use a lathe, and we can't have 20 different lathes purchased. But at the elementary level, you will see much more individual use of supplies. Principals will communicate more about that to those parents. And as far as students working together, that will not be in our classrooms this year, at least under the current health situations, like you've seen it in the past. Students won't be gathering on the rugs. We just can't have students in that proximity. They won't be working next to each other, even in an area like physical education. But our teachers are working, and will be working on the professional development days on how we can still achieve the core goals of the curriculum. Phys ed is an interesting example. There are physical education activities that can be done by individuals guided by a teacher. It isn't like working in small groups or teams like we might think about, but it still allows those kids to be importantly physically active during the time they're in school. So now I'll just read the 2 tough questions and Ralph will answer them. The first is, why are we choosing the hybrid phase? And the second is, how much and who is paying for this? All right, those are your kind of questions, Ralph.
I hope I can answer them, but let me hit the first question. We had 3 plans to choose from, as you know: remote virtual learning, the hybrid plan, or the live contact, we call that we school systems have been voting for the last 50 years. We could not go one-on-one, bringing all 7,000 students into the Trumbull Public Schools. We didn't have the room, the space, given the protocols from the state and the Commissioner of Education. A classroom used to have 25 desks. Now we're only going to be servicing 12 or 13 at a time. And things like that, cafeteria, the gym. The gym may be used for a classroom in some schools, okay? Our libraries also are revised for large room, group instruction, small group. So it was just too complicated. And again, 7,000 students, there's an added chance of a spreading of COVID if it should occur. Okay, the remote, as Jonathan pointed out, I and many parents and staff members, because we were thrust into an emergency situation with the remote learning, it wasn't what we expected, okay, what we wanted and what you wanted. But we also wanted to give you, there's nothing more valuable than a teacher and a student dialoguing together in a classroom. So we tried to do both at the same time. And that's why we went into the hybrid plan, okay? But I should say this, even though we have selected the hybrid plan, that plan is going to evolve throughout the year, okay? We're going to make tweaks in it. Every subcommittee here is going to be making tweaks, something with the transportation or whatever. That's going to happen. You're going to see changes. They will be communicated to you, not the minor ones, but the ones that will impact you, your child, and the staff member, okay? The second was cost, okay? I'm going to be very candid, and I see Mrs. Tesaro is on here. We have talked, but she is not the main player in this. She's one of the players, but no superintendent right now knows exactly where the money to fund this will come from. We know where it should come from, some local, okay, a lot from the state, and a lot from the federal government. And yet there are indicators out there that it will be forthcoming, okay? It's got to be forthcoming because every school district, once the governor decided, I'm not going to tell everybody to do remote learning throughout the state of Connecticut, that opened up Pandora's box. Each school district will come in with different numbers for the cost, okay? We're going to be different, although most of the DERG and the local communities around us like Shelton and Stratford and Fairfield and Monroe, they're also going hybrid, okay? But there's a cost to every plan. But this is the hybrid is very costly because you're taking from both scenarios. Okay. Prior to July 14th, when we handed in our original plan, the cost could have been $5 million, could have been 10, okay? We had to submit something to the state. And once the governor and the commissioner came out and said, look, pick one, now we can devote all our resources here. But when you have a hybrid plan, it's very expensive, particularly, and you know, as I've always said, these are our students, particularly in the special ed area, not only for instruction, for meeting IEPs, for holding meetings, okay, for providing education for the many different programs such as the 18 to 21 program, 22 program, preschool programs in special ed. It's very costly because you need staff. Why is it so costly? John Morello explained it well. We need extra people to provide the sanitation, the cleaning, okay, day and night. One of the things we tried to do, and I think I mentioned last time, we changed closing the buildings at 4:30. Well, now it's 6 o'clock, but at 6 o'clock, there will be no activities in any of the schools except the high school and the 2 middle schools. So if you have a program that you want, the fundraiser, you go through plant and they will funnel you in if it's after 6 o'clock into the proper venue, okay? We are also, I should mention, and this could help us monetarily a little bit, working with Ken McCabe TLC, okay? I don't know if Ken's on now, but we're meeting next week to really come up with some plan, maybe utilizing TLC in a different way during the school hours. It's a very difficult thing to do, but you know, these are difficult times. We're going to try everything to make this transition smooth, okay? But finally on cost, I talked to the OPM department in the state of Connecticut yesterday, and we have to change without Cameron, forward it to them prior to July 14th, because now they're asking every school district, once you decide, tell us the cost. Well, we're doing that now as we speak. Peg, the business office is doing that, and many of the people on this committee, subcommittees, will be called today to give us your final version, because I have to hand that in on Tuesday, okay, to Mr. Ajit at the State Department of Education, who have been very, very cooperative and very gracious to us in Trumbull, because as you know, Al is away for a month with a personal matter with the system. Okay, so we expect the monies to come from those three sources. If they don't, superintendents, naturally, we're going to get together and try to find other ways. But you know, the costs are really staggering when you think about it. I mean, I'll give you an example. Kim, especially I talked to Peg Brandisi yesterday, maybe $500,000 for special ed. And that impacts on Perkins and transportation by another 300 or something thousand. Well, that's 800,000 right there. So I know, you know, we talked maybe 3.5 million, 4 million. No, it's going to be expensive. I'm trying today, Monday, to whittle it down to meet the needs of the students, but streamline our costs. And I wish I had a better answer, but I would be shocked if any superintendent said, well, it's going to cost $3 million. We just don't know yet. I mean, and as I said, this plan is evolving. Some changes may cost. And to show you how it evolves, and I'll end on this, it's a little off the cost thing, but how it's tweaked. Our elementary principals have been spending a lot of time, particularly Gary Gunchaff, on coming up with a new method for the alphabet, okay? Well, yesterday in the morning, we said, it's too late, we can't do it. Well, lo and behold, they did it. And that's why Jonathan was able to announce today, and kudos to them, that the elementary won't be by alphabet. Respective building principals will send information home on that. But that's what we know right now as far as costs. But once we know, the Board of Education wants to know, trust me, and I know the first select woman, Vicky, wants to know. And you know, we appreciate what the board has done, giving us the leeway to develop a plan, and Vicky has been most supportive to us too. Jonathan?
More questions? I'm glad you took that one. Much thanks. So some more questions that have come in on the chat. Dawn, if you're still with us, can a student be driven to school but take the bus home? And if so, what's the procedure for that? Go ahead, Dawn.
Yes. Hi, good morning. A student, if they don't opt to take transportation both ways, a student can just take the bus to school or just take the bus home in the afternoon. And we just do ask that parents communicate that information to the transportation department. The only thing that we are not allowing during these hybrid phase is we're not allowing students to change buses. They will have to stay on their assigned bus in the morning and the afternoon.
Thank you. And there's a question that's come in I'm going to ask Christina to answer. Christina oversees our Learning Commons, previously called Library Media Centers. And somebody's asked a question about library books or other things that may be used by more than one student. What is the procedure for cleaning or sanitizing them between students?
So we actually have a process now. We even followed with returned books end of the spring semester, where the books are actually put in a bin. They're in a sealed bin for at least 72 hours. Generally, it's about a week. We then take them out, we sanitize them, and we reshelve them. We're also anticipating that we're going to be doing a lot of our library work, bringing it into the classroom so kids can will not come to the Learning Commons to sort of check out books, but we'll bring books to them. So we will operate a library media program, just sort of in a different way next year.
Thanks, Christina. There's a variety of questions, I'm told, that have come in about some of our very important special programs. An example is our TAG program. We are still working on developing exactly what the implementation model will be. However, for students who are in school in the hybrid phase, our intention is to provide every course and instructional program to them. But there may have to be some change in delivery methods. Examples might be band and chorus. There are restrictions put out by the CDC on the use of musical instruments and singing. However, our curriculum goals are broader than just the performance. So our students are still being scheduled for those classes. They'll be socially distanced in those classes, and as necessary, they might be looking at other aspects of the core music curriculum. We certainly will not endanger any of our students through our methods, but those are a couple examples of how we're still working on a few particulars about our program. I was asked the question, I'm told, about the number of days in school. Will they be equal for all students? Our mandate from the State Department is 900 instructional hours for every student every year. And so because of the pandemic, some of those students in a hybrid phase will have some of those hours in school, some of those hours in distance learning, and it may not be an exact match at the end of the year between cohort A and cohort B. Students whose parents opt for temporary remote learning, that 900 instructional hours would not apply, and you can talk more about that with me about the implications of that for your particular student. But the state's guideline is the 900 instructional hours will apply for every student who is still in the phase that the superintendent has selected. A couple of final things that we are still working on. One is extracurricular activities, including athletics, and there will be more information on that forthcoming.
John,
We also,
excuse me, I have a meeting with the athletic director on Wednesday to finalize the CIAC plan that we just got last week.
perfect. The CIAC plan came out last week, and Ralph's meeting with Mike King, our athletic director, next Wednesday to finalize our details on that. We also are finalizing details for our students in our interdistrict programs in aquaculture and RCA. The schedules for those programs are ultimately controlled in one case by the city of Bridgeport and in the second by CES, but we know from the conversations we've had with those individuals that they are committed to working with us and having a seamless transition for our students in those programs. So parents of students in those programs will get more details as we get them. I finally want to stress the method of communication on this is ultimately on the front page of the reopening plan, which is questions can be directed to the superintendent of schools. You also know who the subcommittee chairs are, so you may have particular questions just on a subtopic, and those subcommittee chairs could help with that. We are very committed to continuing your child's excellent education next year in the most safe and healthful environment we can, not just for our students, but also for all of our staff. And with that, I'll turn it back to the superintendent for some final words. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Very good job. Really appreciate you pulling it together. Let me just end very quickly and say two things. One, the contributions of everyone involved in working toward the hybrid plan, whether it was the subcommittees, the staff, the parents, the Board of Ed, really, have been a tremendous asset to us. A lot of time, energy, and hard work went into it. It has not gone unnoticed, but I will tell you, it's been very, very much appreciated. And finally, we are in this together. There's no question about that. We're in it together. But remember, working together, we will have a successful year and succeed. And I thank you very, very much. Over 500 people today. Have a great weekend. Take care.